Today, we're tackling a massive question. How do we actually make laws work in virtual reality? This entire explainer is based on the foundational work of Professor Vihar Kiskinov, who developed a complete blueprint for how a legal system could function in a purely virtual environment. So let's start with a simple thought experiment. Imagine your avatar gets robbed of some super rare digital item you worked hard for. Is that a crime? Who would have jurisdiction? How would you even hold a trial? These aren't just what-if scenarios anymore. As more of our lives, our assets, and our identities go digital, these gray areas show us exactly why we need a clear, solid legal framework built for these new spaces. So here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to establish why virtual worlds even need their own rulebook. Then we'll unpack the two essential jobs that any legal system has to do. From there, we'll see how you'd go about constructing a digital courthouse. After that, we'll look at the law and day-to-day action, and we'll wrap up by thinking about what all this means for our digital future. All right, let's dive into our first section. When you think about it, our traditional legal systems are built on physical things, physical bodies, physical property, physical borders. But in virtual reality, none of that exists. This means we can't just take old laws and try to force them to fit new technology. We really have to build a new legal system from the ground up, one that's native to this completely digital world. And this brings us to a really key insight from Professor Kiskinov. Virtual reality isn't just another place where legal arguments happen. Because it's a perfectly structured and manageable digital environment, it can actually become a tool to model, test, and even operate the legal system itself. In a way, it's both the territory that needs laws and the perfect map-making tool to design them. So, where do we even begin to build a system like this? Well, the model starts with a really fundamental idea. Any legal system, physical or virtual, does two essential things. First, it has to build its own framework, and second, it has to regulate all the activity that happens inside that framework. Let's break those down. These two jobs are done by what Professor Kiskinov calls constructive mechanisms and regulatory mechanisms. The easiest way to think about this is to imagine building a city. The constructive mechanisms are the blueprints, the cranes, and all the tools the architects use to design and build the roads and courthouses. The regulatory mechanisms are the traffic laws and city codes for all the people who have to live and work there every day. So, the constructive mechanisms are the architectural blueprint. Their whole purpose is to create the foundational pieces of the legal system, things like the virtual courts, the digital laws, and the electronic registers that keep track of property and identity. In short, they build the actual infrastructure that makes law possible in a virtual world. And once the city is built, you have the regulatory mechanisms. These are the rules of the road for everyday virtual life. They're what govern how our avatars interact, how digital contracts are enforced, and how all our rights and obligations are managed inside the system that the constructive mechanisms just finished building. Okay, let's get into the construction phase. What are the actual building blocks, the foundational pillars that you'd need to put a working legal system online? Professor Kiskinov identifies 8 of these key building blocks. Let's look at the first 4. Number 1, defining legal personality. Who or what can have rights online? Is it just the human user, or can an AI have rights too? Second, how are these legal subjects officially represented? Third, the system absolutely needs secure electronic registers. Think of them as the official record books for this virtual world. And fourth, you need secure environments for personal data, which is a huge topic we'll come back to. The next 4 building blocks are all about how the system actually runs. Number 5, you need defined legal proceedings, the virtual version of a court case. 6, a secure channel for exchanging legal communications like signing a contract. 7, rules have to be created for all the new virtual phenomena like digital assets. And finally, number 8, there has to be a single, official, unchangeable source for the laws themselves, kind of like a digital law book everyone can trust. Now, one of the most critical choices in designing this whole system comes down to how personal data is managed. There are really 2 ways you could go. The concentration model would gather everybody's data into one single centralized state-run database. But the individualization approach does the opposite and empowers you, the user. This individual approach leads to a really powerful concept called data boxes. Imagine having your own personal, secure digital vault. It holds all your official documents, licenses, and legal history. Now, if an authority needs to verify something, you don't hand over all your data. You grant them temporary, limited access to only the specific piece of information they need. It's an elegant way to protect privacy while still allowing for efficient government. Okay, so the digital courthouse is built. Now, how does a legal process actually play out inside it? This is where we shift our focus from building the system to using it, from the constructive mechanisms to the regulatory ones that handle the day-to-day application of the law. Any legal action, from making a simple purchase to filing a complaint, follows this logical chain. It all starts with the identification of everyone involved. Next, the system establishes the legally relevant facts by pulling them from secure registers. That leads to the formation of a legal will, which is just a fancy way of saying a decision is made. That decision is then formalized and certified, maybe with a digital signature. And finally, that certified result is securely stored and shared in the preservation and exchange step. But what happens when an algorithm makes that decision? This is a critical point. Existing European law actually gives us a core principle here. You have the right not to be subjected to a decision that has a legal effect on you if it's based only on automated processing. This is especially true when it comes to judging personal qualities like someone's reliability or behavior. The bottom line is, there always has to be a human in the loop. This leads us right into one of the biggest challenges for our digital legal future. We have to define the legal status of AIs, or electronic agents. Seriously, think about this. If an AI trading bot signs a contract that bankrupts you, who's legally responsible? The AI itself, the programmer who built it, or you for using it? The law needs to have clear, concrete answers for these questions. So, after all that, where does this leave us? Well, building a legal system for virtual reality is a monumental task. There's no doubt about it. But having a conceptual blueprint, a well-thought-out model like the one we've just discussed, is the absolutely essential first step you have to take before a single law or a single line of code gets written. The real value of Professor Kiskinov's model is that it provides exactly that foundation. This isn't just an academic thought experiment. It's a practical and systematic guide for creating laws and technologies that are fair, consistent, and that respect our fundamental rights. It lets us build our digital future with purpose, instead of just reacting to crises as they pop up. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. As the line between our physical and virtual lives keeps blurring, what do you think will become our single most important digital right? Will it be privacy, the right to a persistent identity? Or maybe it's a new right that we haven't even conceived of yet? The answers we come up with will shape the world to come.